Hey, I'm Ryan from draftyourbid.com, and today we're talking about how to write an IT services quote that prices tech projects clearly. By the end, you'll know how to structure a quote that gets approved fast, prevents scope creep, and holds up even when the project runs long. Let's get into it. Let me paint a familiar picture. You quote a client for a piece of software work, one number, development, £12,000. They agree. Then, halfway through, they ask for an extra integration. Then the requirements shift a little. Then testing drags because their team is slow to give feedback. And by the end, you've done half again as much work as you quoted, for the same money, and the relationship feels strained. Here's the truth, that project didn't go wrong during the build. It went wrong on the quote. Tech projects are won or lost on how clearly you scope and price them up front, so let's fix that. First, understand that an IT quote is not an IT proposal. A proposal sells your capabilities and convinces the client to work with you. A quote confirms the price for a client who has already decided. If you treat your quote like another sales deck, the client treats it like something to deliberate over. Keep it clear and confirmatory, and they can approve it quickly. Now, the first real decision your quote has to make is the pricing model, and there are three. Fixed price works when requirements are fully defined and unlikely to change. It gives the client certainty, but it transfers the risk to you, because if you underestimate, you absorb the cost. Day rate, or time and materials, works for discovery phases and exploratory development, anything where scope will genuinely evolve. Here the client carries the cost risk, and they need to understand that upfront. And then there's the hybrid, fixed price for the well-defined deliverables, plus a day rate pool for change requests. For a lot of mid-complexity work, that hybrid is the most honest model there is. Whatever you choose, state it explicitly at the top. A line like this quote is based on a fixed price engagement with a day rate change request mechanism is far clearer than leaving the client to guess. Next, and this is the big one for tech, define your scope boundaries in both directions. The single biggest source of IT disputes is scope ambiguity, so your quote needs to say what's included and, just as importantly, what's excluded. On the included side, give a numbered list of actual deliverables, not just a development or integration. State your technology stack assumptions, because if you're quoting React and Node, and they later want .NET, that changes everything. And list the client's responsibilities too, access to systems, sign-off timelines, providing test data. Then, explicitly, list what's excluded. Third-party licenses and API costs. Hosting and infrastructure, unless you've included it. Training and documentation beyond what's specified. And post-launch bug fixes beyond a defined warranty period. A well-scoped quote doesn't just protect you, it helps the client budget accurately. Both sides win. Then, structure your line items clearly. Please don't dump everything into a single development line. Break it into phases, even if the total is identical. Discovery and requirements. Back-end development. Front-end build. Integration and testing. Deployment and handover. And optionally, a post-launch support retainer. Itemized quotes convert faster because the client can see exactly what they're paying for at each stage. And they make change requests simple to price. If the scope shifts in phase 2, you quote the difference against a clearly defined baseline, instead of arguing about what was ever included. On payments, tie them to deliverables, not calendar dates. A typical structure is 25 to 30% on signing, another portion at the end of development before user testing, and the balance on final delivery or go-live. For longer projects, monthly payments against completed phases are standard. Whatever you do, avoid backloading the payment. If most of your fee is due only at the very end, and the client drags their feet on sign-off, you're the one financing the delay. Get paid as value is delivered. Include a change request process, even if it's just one paragraph. Something like, any work outside the scope defined in this quote will require a written change request. We'll provide a revised estimate and timeline for approval before any additional work begins. Clients expect this. It's professional, not defensive, and it sets expectations before something goes wrong rather than after. Add a validity period, too. IT quotes should typically be valid for around 30 days, because labor costs and availability change. A quote you send in April that the client suddenly wants to activate in September may need repricing. Just state it, this quote is valid for 30 days from issue. If the start date is delayed significantly, revised rates may apply. And finally, make the quote easy to approve, because the person who commissioned the work is often not the person who signs off the budget. Finance and procurement review these differently. So lead with a one-page summary, the scope, the total investment, the payment schedule, the start date. Break the costs by phase, so the budget can be spread across financial periods. And reference any prior proposal or discovery work that led to this quote. Make the approver's job easy, and you remove the last bit of friction between you and a signature. So, to bring it together, pick and state your pricing model. Define scope in both directions. Itemize by phase. Tie payments to deliverables. Spell out the change request process. Add a validity period. And make it easy for the budget holder to approve. Do that, and your tech quotes stop turning into disputes and start turning into signed, profitable projects. Let me make this concrete with a quick example. Say you're quoting a client to build a customer portal. Instead of portal development, £18,000, you write it out in phases. Discovery and requirements, 3 days. Backend and database, 8 days. Front-end build, 7 days. Integration with their existing CRM, 4 days. Testing and deployment, 3 days. Then, separately, a change request pool of 5 days at your day rate, to be drawn on only if requirements shift. Now the client sees precisely where their money goes. They can see that the CRM integration is a real chunk of work, and if they later decide they also want a mobile app, you're not renegotiating the whole quote, you're just pricing a new phase against a baseline everyone already agreed. That's the difference between a quote that causes arguments and one that prevents them. And notice what the itemization does psychologically. A single £18,000 number invites the question, why so much? While 5 clearly scoped phases invite the question, which of these do we start with? You've moved the client from doubting the total to planning the work. And that's how to write an IT services quote that prices tech projects clearly. If this helped, do hit like and subscribe, it genuinely helps the channel. And I'd love to hear from you, so drop your IT quoting questions in the comments and I'll answer them. Before you go, take a look at the video showing on screen right now. Chances are you haven't seen it yet, and it's a perfect next watch from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.